Whoa, we're back for some Bleach Soul Resonance, and I want to talk about rerun characters and a few other things dotting the lines here and there. We are about 4 days away, as of me recording this video, from whatever the last stretch of content will be for this celebration, and at some point I should go through it and talk about the events and the like, because I do think that on the level, like on the whole, this has been a pretty good stretch of content. I haven't gone back in here and beat these again, but we have gotten the rewards outside of the becoming backup data and 800,000. Mind you, this one can be done in this 800,000 can be done. I'll come back and do this eventually, but this become backup data probably is just for whales. Thankfully you can do, like I said, it in backup data. So at some point I will come in here and we will try the backup challenge. You can see I'm very close, and we'll make a video out of that. Because I know I've seen people struggle with that. We'll get there though, we'll get there. But for now, let's go into the topic of the main video, which is, we can go over here, what upcoming rerun characters are must pull. And if you heard me talk about this, we can go over to my list here, which looks something like this. Here is my list. Here's my list of characters who are, for my money, for my free-to-play account bros out there, these are the most important characters to get a handle on. Thankfully, I could make lists that are essentially just, these are the best characters in a vacuum. I could say, like, I don't know, WIchigo is probably just like one of the strongest, if not the strongest characters in a vacuum in the game right now. I could make lists like, if you have a B0, Goodimjo, WIchigo, and, you know, Szayel, you have a, super high powered core. But what I do want to point out with this list is that this character right here, Mayuri, is at the topmost position. I think the game unabashedly completely revolves around Mayuri right now. For a long time, what we had in the game was sort of a stasis where the game revolved entirely around Ulquiorra, but we're sort of away from that now. I mean, let's just go down the list here. Is affected by Mayuri, is affected by Mayuri, is affected by Mayuri, is affected by Mayuri, is not affected by Mayuri, is not affected by Mayuri, is not, and then we've got affected by Mayuri, obviously, is not technically affected by Mayuri because of freeze, I believe. Mayuri. Do you get the idea? Like, as we go into the free-to-play characters, like, it's just one of those things where Mayuri is completely and unabashedly broken in what he is. And unlike Szayel, who's going to be the second character I suggest you grab on a rerun, because he is an SSR support, and unlike the sub DPSs, he is just a support. He's a support. That is what sets him and Mayuri apart. The bonuses you get out of having both these characters, and I say that as someone who still does not have this character's core stamp, and I think this character performs. Like, this character is missing crit damage, and I think he performs. But this character kind of needs to be in your account because there's no other option for Spirit. I mean, you could run Ulquiorra, but you're just running a much more inferior version of the team, and there is no replacement for that. We can go back to the actual list here. Who would be another rerun character? Nellel probably needs to be gotten if you do not have her once she reruns, but at this point, I mean, there was another thread while I was sort of scrolling that was like, when will the thrust characters rerun? And it's like, I don't know. I really don't know. Nellel has never rerun. Again, we could go through it. Nellel has never rerun, and it's just one of those things where she's a top celebration character. We don't know when she will return. Maybe when a character like Yamamoto comes out, maybe he'll be the thrust DPS with ailment damage, but we just don't know. Maybe when we get a thrust, maybe it's True Shikai Ichigo. I posited that maybe True Shikai Ichigo will be the new thrust lead DPS, and then we'll have Mayuri and Nellel just sort of swaddling him. We don't know. We just really don't know. But she's another character that kind of needs to be picked up if we don't have any sort of hints that we're getting another SSR thrust character, right? And then Soifon, of course. Soifon's way too good. I mean, this Soifon character is had one of the biggest glow ups in recent memory. I don't. This character's way too good. I think even without this, making her rotations easy, the fact that she's just so off field, and she really does share that with a character like Mayuri, it's what makes It's what makes his rotations, when combined with her, so lax, because Grimjo just spends so much time in the fight hitting the enemies. It's such a good, stable core of characters that perfectly synergize with each other, right? But yeah, I think Soifon's another one. And after that, I know people are gonna say like Aizen, and that's fair. Aizen's rerun a lot, so he's not really a character I think is like priority. And it is my opinion that Aizen is on the chopping block unless you get Dupe 4. I think we're gonna see this character sort of die down pretty soon. And by soon, I mean the next like 2 to 3 months, not like next week. You know what I mean? Like, obviously we're gonna have a good amount of time of Aizen left. But if I had to guess who is on the chopping block right now, it's Aizen, possibly Kenpachi if the true Shikai Ichigo stuff is true. I'm saying that in a video because he was revealed, or he was hinted at, teased, whatever, but not leaked. This is, true Ichigo could show up, or he could not. He was teased as a possible option when they said dual wield, so it is what it is. I'm just gonna say it. And then Gin. Gin is another character I would see on the downswing soon. So Gin, I'm not mentioning Ulquiorra because he's literally going to be replaced in, 2 weeks. So it's not really what I'm talking about. But Aizen, Gin, and I think that's, and maybe Kenpachi. Those are the 3 characters I'm looking to be replaced pretty soon. So as far as like, oh, you really need to grab Aizen or Kenpachi or Gin. If you don't have them already, I don't know how badly I would be kind of like trying to grab them, because like this character's gone soon, and then what are they going to release? Like 2IBW Rukia against Aizen, maybe the, true Shikai Ichigo as an ailment character, like could be, because they just buffed Kenpachi, so who knows? But it's just like, we don't know. We really don't know. We really have no idea. But I think at the base level, you need to grab the SSR supports. I would say Mayuri and Szayel Lapido are the characters to grab. If you could grab her, maybe Nellel if she reruns, because they have not shown any signs of replacing the Thrust Tactics character yet. And a lot of the characters that have been speculated on, I do not see being Thrust Tactics. So there is that. Well, let's move on to a new thing. So here's another question that I think is interesting. B1 White or Kenny? I'm sure people have already given a good amount of responses down here. Just save Jades, etc., etc. Like, I'm not very good at the game, so I'm not drowning in Jades like a lot of you are. I'm probably only going to get enough pulls to get one more SSR this period. Is between Kenny and White. Who is the better to get a dupe of? Let us talk about this, because I think this is like pretty interesting, but because there's multiple things to consider here. All right, so I'm going to say there's 3 options. There's the Kenpachi Zaraki route, there's the White Ichigo route, and then there's the don't get either route. Let's talk about the Kenny route. So we just, the reason I'm pairing this with the previous talking point is we just concluded that Kenpachi might be getting ousted soon. Now, I am not going to take into consideration that you just love Kenpachi. If you just love Kenpachi, then none of this really matters. You can grab a dupe of him, right? Here's the thing. This is one of those boundaries that sort of unlocks the character in terms of playability, but it doesn't like tip him over the scales of being like, or over the edge of being like, oh my god, this is just like, he can't even play without it. I would consider it sort of like the Aizen one, where it's extremely good, it makes him smooth, but you don't really need it to like access the character in the same way that I think that something like this boundary makes this character just an absurd support, which is her second one, right? Kenpachi's first boundary makes his rotations very smooth. You probably get the issue that you have with Nellel in B1, where if you don't have Nellel's B1, you end up doing another half of a rotation. So 1.5 rotations instead of 1 rotations to sort of get into your Spirit Burst. I think it is very good, but we are on the horizon of possibly a Kenpachi replacement. Now, there is a thing of you could always just be saving for the next dupe. And I don't like subscribing to that, because it's like, well, yeah, why not just always save? Why not, never get anything? And so at some point you have to make a decision. The reason I would maybe in this case be a little hesitant with Kenpachi is because Ulquiorra is coming, and we are going to expect Ulquiorra to be extremely good. Kenpachi was released as a random monthly. I think Kenpachi will be back if you really, really want Kenpachi. However, we have not seen, and you're going to hear me say this all the time, we have not seen the return of Nalel, who is one of the only big celebration characters with Chinese New Year. So, to try and grab a dupe for Kenpachi who could return, even if you're the biggest Kenpachi fan and you just want dupes in him, he might end up just returning over and over again like Aizen has, and you could just grab dupes of him then and slowly build towards the biggest Kenpachi ever, if you so desire, if you want all of this, or just want these two, right? WIchigo. This character's broken, and I literally don't even know why you would get dupes. Obviously, he would do more damage if you grab this. Obviously, he'd do more damage if you get this. Also, he supports a bit more. But, I just don't know why you need him to have dupes. And that's the other thing where it's just like, if you don't get Kenpachi dupes, I don't know why you would want Inner Hollow dupes. And at that point, why not just get an Ulquiorra dupe? And if you don't want an Ulquiorra dupe, then you essentially have just saved one dupe amount of Jade, if this is to be believed by this person. And, you know, I trust that they essentially just have one more 80 pull in them. You essentially just have one dupe worth of Jade in your back pocket for when your next favorite strong character drops. And I think that's sort of the play. There aren't many characters I consider getting a dupe in that, like, are sort of on their way out by the dev's own admission. And it could be one of those things where we're just misreading the timeline. And True Shikai Ichigo, which I've said before, I think TYBW Rukia is coming. We could just be, you know, misreading the bones, misreading the timeline, and, you know, the hints are being kept vague because that's what hints are. But Kenpachi at B0 going into another character that you could be one later, that just feels better to me. That feels better to me. Now, if you want your Kenpachi to still shine, I did talk about this route before, which is dusting your standard free-to-play, like, limited SSR weapon stamps and giving his weapon stamp dupes. So, dusting something like this Hakuda and Kido and then giving his weapon stamps dupes will drastically increase Kenpachi's value because his weapon stamp is a lot of his actual damage, right? So I don't know. I would say right now, as of what day is it? It's like June the 14th. June the 14th with 11 days until Ulquiorra, and then 21 days after that until, you know, True Shikai Ichigo maybe, Shunsui maybe, Coyote Stark maybe, TYBW Rukia maybe, Yamamoto maybe, whoever they decide to go with, because remember, they said we're done with the losers. We're not doing more unhyped baby characters like they were making us do before. You know, we're not doing, you know, and I no disrespect to these characters because I really like Peyote, I really like Soifon, I really like Szayel. We're not doing Szayel, Soifon, and Szayelapato again. We're bringing the heat now. So it's like, if you are a big fan of Kenpachi, I think B1 is reasonable. That said, I don't know if it's the most frugal thing to do right now because we are, I mean, how long has this character been out? 4 months already? We're kind of coming up on him being out of here. If you're the biggest fan of WIchigo, I just kind of don't get why you would need it. Maybe I'm missing something with these boundaries and they're actually crazy, but they don't read like crazy to me. Like, this is crazy. So is this one is fucking absurd, by the way. This one's really, really crazy. But I think these are very good. I just don't think they're necessary. Genuinely. I really don't. I think this is the first time we've gotten a tactics unit that doesn't have a required boundary to get. Because I do think, even though I haven't pulled on a dupe for him, I do think this one is sort of required for like the best version of a low spending Aizen or free to play Aizen. This one is obviously required for the best version of a free-to-play Suifon, and this one is monstrously needed for a good version of free-to-play NLL. But look how much text is here. Like, look at all of what this does, and then by comparison, just damage. This one literally looks more like this. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a buff, like it's like a little damage buff. You know, it's like when you get like this shit from Byakuya. So I don't know. I really don't think it's that valuable, and I would sort of ward against it. I also, you know, not to repeat myself endlessly, but I do think Kenpachi could be on the way out. As it pains me to say, because Kenpachi is top 3 character for me in the entire series, I think. I just love, like, Kenpachi, it gives me the same feeling that, like, Toji does in JJK, where it's like, bitch, it's not about the lore for me. I'm here to, like, fight you. And I'm here to, like, throw hands. And that's, I don't know. He's fun. He's a fun character. He's a fun character in a fun anime, or a fun manga series. But with all that being said, I have been Lone. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the club, we'll go make it, and peace, man.